Hey everyone, Megan Olivi and Brett Okamoto inside the Vivint Arena in Salt Lake City. UFC 278 has just wrapped up, and man, I mean, we thought we knew what was happening in the main event, Brett, and we certainly did not. But before we talk about the spectacular finish by Leon Edwards, what were your thoughts after the second round? Because at that point, we had seen Leon have an incredible first round and do something no other fighter had done to Kamaru in the UFC, which is take him down. Second round was not his. It went to Kamaru. But where did you feel like the fight was going at that point?
After the second round, I didn't know. I thought it was way too early to know. You know, Leon he'd made history in the first round by being the first guy to take him down, and then he takes his back, and you're like, man, see? Because I came in pretty high on Leon Edwards, you know, maybe not even picking him to win, but just saying, man, this is a real fight for Kamaru. I think that this is going to be a tough fight for him. So he has the first round, but then you see Kamaru start to do Kamaru things in the second round. You know, he responds to adversity. He starts pressuring Leon Edwards, and I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that Leon was backing up. I thought you got to back him up a little bit. You saw the wrestling. You saw just everything starting to click for Usman, and so I didn't know. I needed to see what was going on. Where I kind of started to lose hope for Leon was in that fourth round, you know, because then he loses the second round, he loses the third round, and that's when his coach is starting to get on him like, hey, man, we got to go. We got to go. Don't let him bully you. Be mean in there. Exactly. Yes. But the body language of Leon Edwards was not responding to that. So when he was taken down in the fourth round, you know, there was a little bit of a fence grab, and then he ended up on the ground. I thought, well, I've seen this story, man. I've seen this story. We're going to see Kamaru Usman with a sixth title defense. That's around the time where I really didn't think that Leon Edwards could do it.
Well, when I spoke to him backstage, honestly, not that long ago, he told me my body was not responding. He said after the first round, I don't know what it was, but I literally could not do anything. Physically, it just wasn't responding to what my mind wanted it to do. He said he didn't know if it was the altitude. He slept in an altitude tent, so it wasn't like, you know, he didn't prepare. He came here 2 weeks early, but we get into the fifth round, and there's about a minute left. I mean, when the way he was fighting in the fifth round, did you think, oh, he might find a hole here?
No,
right.
I did not. And I didn't even really see anything from him that made me think that he thought that he could find a hole. But Anthony Smith was up here, and Anthony Smith is a lot smarter than I am when it comes to breaking down fights and other things. And he said that he was kind of attacking the inside leg, and he was focusing on that, and he was getting Kamaru's hips to turn a little bit, and that's what he was setting up. He was setting up that head kick. That he hadn't really gone after Kamaru's head the entire time, so saving that for the fifth round. And usually that's a big weapon of Leon Edwards. So
exactly.
I got to be honest, man. After the fight, Leon Edwards, you know, Joe Rogan asked him, did you ever doubt yourself? And he's like, no, I'm from the trenches. Leon, you were doubting yourself, man. There's no way. You were definitely doubting yourself. You're down to the number one pound-for-pound guy in the sport. You were absolutely doubting yourself. But this guy, his career has been a whole set of just disappointments, and not even necessarily failures by him, but just bad things happening to the guy. And there he was in the fifth round with 1 minute left. Leon Edwards was going to be the one guy that probably found that head kick knockout.
You're exactly right. And if you know Leon Edwards' life story, you also know that he truly means he comes from the trenches, and it was disappointment after disappointment, but learning to find his way to the positive, and that's what he did tonight. Brett, before we move on, because I know we don't have a lot of time tonight, but Dana White said in the press conference, hey, I think the trilogy, and I think at Wembley in England.
Yeah.
What do you think the trilogy could potentially look like? Because that would be absolutely insane. And if Leon isn't performing or didn't perform tonight in the way that he felt that he could, then does it look different?
Well, I know you're excited, but please don't break the desk while you're doing the last segment of the evening. But no, it's just crazy to me because for years we always were kind of like, man, Leon's just never going to resonate with anybody. You know, Leon doesn't talk trash. You know, Leon doesn't even give. Not only does he not talk trash, but he doesn't even give good sound bites. And then his fights are, you know, and then he already lost to Kamaru. Like, we have kind of thrown this guy to the side his entire career in some respects. And now you've got Dana White saying that he never wants to do a stadium show. Dana White, the guy who says he never wants to do stadium shows because of rain and wind and everything else, he's saying I got to do a stadium show because of Leon Edwards. I mean, this sport is wild, Megan. It changes. It just goes from one world to the next within a span of a second. So it's just ironic that that's what they're talking about for Leon. But oh my God, can you imagine? I mean, I stadium shows, you have to have the right fight. This is the right fight. I mean, Kamaru is going to how is he going to respond to this? He's going to feel like, of course, he was winning the fight up until that one moment. He's got to make right for it. And then to have Leon have that moment in England, I hope it happens. You know,
Me too.
sometimes we talk about it on fight night, and then
Right.
the logistics just don't work out. That is a fight that should happen in Wembley Stadium. I really hope that happens.
I hope it happens. Kamaru tweeted that he's coming back with a vengeance, and I certainly know that he does mean that. But Brett, the co-main event that preceded the main event was kind of weird.
Beautifully weird is what I put on Twitter. I thought it was beautifully weird. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to ask you about because it just was awkward at times, and you know, Paulo did what had to be done. Luke Rockhold, did you feel like he was ready to be in there?
Luke?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I did. He had a long camp. You know, he had been training for this fight for a long time.
The
dates moved. I was a little surprised to see him so gassed because I knew that he had taken his training so seriously. Maybe he overtrained, or maybe he wasn't ready for the altitude. You mentioned the altitude. That's a real thing. It's a real thing. The UFC hadn't been to Salt Lake in a long time, but whenever it happens, we always end up talking about it, like Denver, Mexico City. Yeah. Like it always happens. You know, it's a real thing. So I don't know. Maybe it was just he was emotional because he knew if he lost, it was going to be his last fight. So I think it was a combination of factors. But he was tired. He was gassed in the second round. And anybody who's around this sport knows that when you are gassed, most of the time, I shouldn't say most of the time, but a lot of times you quit. A lot of times these guys quit because it's terrible. It's a terrible feeling to be tired in a mixed martial arts fight. And Luke Rockhold could have quit a bunch of times, and I think he strongly considered it, but he didn't. And for him to do that in his final fight, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he rose to that occasion. And I think obviously any of these guys are going to be disappointed if they lose. But when he looks back on this, if it's the final night of his career, which I believe it will be, I think he'll be proud of it.
Yeah, I love that you put it that way, Brett. I think that is really important to showcase he did not quit in there. I mean, at times where we thought, how can he even keep moving or a step forward? He'd throw a great punch and land it against Paulo.
Or a 360 roundhouse kick when he was like this like 2 seconds ago, and then he's throwing a 360 roundhouse kick. Like,
yeah. Well, Paulo Costa was victorious. He said, listen, he told me backstage, I could have finished him. I probably should have pushed it a little bit harder. I could have. I just didn't. So we'll see what comes next for him because that was the last fight on his contract, depending, does he resign, does he not? But I want to talk about, before they wrap us, Merab Dvalishvili versus Jose Aldo. First off, the pop that Jose Aldo got in this building was absolutely phenomenal.
Loved
and
it.
Deserved for a legend of the game. But Merab, he was not swayed.
Yeah.
He came out there with a game plan, and he continued towards it. He didn't get the takedowns, but he said, let me show you my striking.
Yeah, let me talk about Aldo because and I want to give Merab a lot of credit. He deserves a lot of credit, and we're going to see what's next for him. I think that he should stay at 135, and I think he's a problem there. But let's talk about Jose Aldo, right? I mean, he walked out to that song, you know, that we've heard so many times, and this crowd loved him for it. I was so excited to watch that fight, and I got to be honest, Megan, I saw maybe the first signs of that's not Jose Aldo anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and Merab is a tough guy. And you know what? I'm actually a little bit upset that this fight happened because Jose Aldo wanted to win this fight and then go fight for a championship. To put this as his second to last fight, to let his title run, his last hope for a title run, end with Merab Dvalishvili holding him against a fence, I'm a little bummed out by that. You know, could we have given him a striker? Could we have given him T.J. Dillashaw? Could we have given him, you know, and like there's so many guys at 135 he could have fought. I just was watching that fight and I was like, man, this is how his last title run is going to end, with Dvalishvili frustrating him and holding him against the fence. That's a tough fight. It's just a tough, grinding, grueling fight. But hey, that's the nature of the game. And from a ranking standpoint, this fight made sense. I don't know what Jose's going to do. You know, he told me this week that if he lost this fight, he would have to sit down with his team. He didn't take a lot of damage in this fight.
Right.
They do have Brazil in January. I think that's a pretty easy call. Let him go to Brazil. Let him have his retirement fight there. And I got to say, just to throw it out there, I think Dominic Cruz would be a perfect opponent.
Oh, my God. I love that. I love that matchup. Sorry, I'm very excited about that thought because the King of Rio competing against Dominic Cruz, a matchup since the WEC days we thought would be great.
The greatest bantamweight of all time against the former WEC and UFC featherweight champion.
Totally agree.
Love it.
You know what? I'm going to end on that note because Brett Okamoto is brilliant, and you guys should follow him on Twitter. But thank you so much for watching. We will see you. Well, I will see you from Paris, and then we'll see you for UFC 279 in Las Vegas. It's time to go to bed. It's pretty late here in Salt Lake. You guys have a good one.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.